Hey there, welcome to Beyond the Park. My name is Adam Yaris, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 4, Boys Club. Hello! I am so excited to dive into this episode because I think the scenarios presented here are hilarity. So let's dive in. Now, the episode begins with a great cold open. Leslie and Tom are called out to the local park because some kids are having poop fights. They're grabbing the used dog feces bags and whipping them at each other. Now, I think this is hilarious. It's totally something I would do with my friends growing up. Leslie refuses to believe it until she gets caught in the middle of the fight. Tom immediately abandons her, constant theme throughout this series, but Leslie goes out, tries to reason with him, and instead takes part in the fight. Leslie actually turns out she is the dominant player. She's ready to go. And that's going to be the theme throughout the series. Leslie is ready to take on any challenge. Now, this episode's challenge, of course, is the Boys Club. So it starts off with everybody back in the office talking and chatting, and Leslie notices Mark Brendanowitz and a few city planners out in the courtyard having a few drinks on a Tuesday afternoon. Now, Leslie is determined to break into this. Now, a few things that are happening in the background. One, April has created a social media page for The Pit. They're trying to bring awareness to this scenario. And two, a local contractor has sent them a gift basket full of wine, not particularly interested for myself, but it's also full of cheese. Now, Leslie is very firm about this. Nobody could open the bag. They are not able to receive a gift over $25 legally in the Parks Department. So Leslie and Anne decide, hey, we're going to break the mold. They walk out and join this crew, this boys club, and try to break the mold. The reality is, these guys aren't a boys club. They're a couple guys hanging out, and Leslie is making a big deal out of this. I'm all about shattering gender stereotypes, but this is really just some people hanging out. Anyway, they go, they talk, they have some fun. Anne brings up a few questions to Mark, trying to figure out who he's really friends with, trying to find out who he is and what's going on. And as the time goes on, the drinks run out, and Mark says, it's closing time. Now, Leslie actually is having the time of her life here. She is loving the fact that she is being accepted by these people. So she makes a bad choice. She decides, I'm going to go take that contractor's snack bag and give it to everybody here. So she brings out some wine and cheese, and the party continues. Well, the next day, Leslie has some immediate regrets. She confesses everything to her coworkers and her boss. Leslie has made some big issues. Now, Ron immediately tells her, don't make a bigger deal out of it than it already is. Don't create a bigger problem. Ron knows how Leslie works. So what does Leslie do? She creates a much bigger problem out of this. She writes a full confession, emails it to everybody in the government, and includes the link to the Pit page online. This takes it even a step further. We find out that April, who is 19, got drunk, filmed herself, and put it on the Pit page. So now not only has Leslie accepted a bribe, she has helped in the intoxication of a minor. This is not looking good. It is bringing her down. So soon enough, Leslie goes to trial, and she has to explain to the local planners what is going on. She goes through, tells everybody anything, and eventually Ron, her boss, who really doesn't care about her that much as a person, although he one day will, says, hey, you can't keep her like this. She's confessed everything. This is not communist China. And they leave. Leslie gets a note in her file and is free to go. Now, in the background of this episode, we see Andy and Anne and a unique dynamic in their relationship. Anne is working a double shift at the hospital and has no expectations that Andy's gonna help her at home. Well, little does she know, Andy cleans up the whole yard, even takes a bath himself, although to be fair, he ends up streaking down the whole neighborhood. But we'll get there in a moment. Let's move on and talk about the best line of the show. Yes, we need fun music. Yes, we're working on that. Yes, I have a $0 budget, so hey, like and subscribe to help us get there. But let's talk about the best line, because today we couldn't get one good line, we had to get two great lines. Let's check out the first. It comes from this dialogue between Jerry and, of course, Leslie, right after Leslie confesses to taking this bribe bag. Let's take a look at it and how it starts off here. Jerry says, last year you wrote me up for making personal phone calls to my mom. Leslie says, yes, I did, and I would do it again. Two wrongs don't make a right. Jerry says, yeah, but she was in the hospital. Leslie said, I did not know that at the time. That's brutal right there. Writing up a person for calling their sick mom. But that's just like a typical day for Jerry throughout this series. Nobody loves him. Nobody cares about him. Aside from his family, his wife Gail, and his 3 daughters, who he always says are the apples of his eye. Then we run into our second best line here. And this was a tie. It's second only because of the order of operations. But it comes from Andy when he is trying to take a bath and figure out how to clean himself, even though he has 2 casts on both of his legs. Let's check it out. He says, "There's only one thing more I need to clean. Me. I can't really go into shower, so I got the idea from my parents. This is how they clean their dog." In this moment, Andy is filling up a giant pool, or like a kiddie pool, with water because he's going to be dumping himself in there to try to get himself smelling just a little bit better. Now, we've got 2 quick observations today from this episode, just 2 brief highlights. First, we've seen Donna before, but this is the first episode where she gets a speaking part, even though it's minor. We know she's got a lot of character to bring out, and we are so excited for her future, but we're happy to note she has started bringing the heat right here. Second thing that we've got is a little spark between Ann Perkins and Mark Brendanawicz. There's this quick conversation about who he's hanging out with, and is he still kind of like gallivanting around with all these random chicks. Mark kind of hints that no, I'm not doing that, and maybe is even laying the groundwork to get a date in the future here. It's something we're gonna have to keep our eye on over the next couple episodes. And this takes us to Beyond the Park. Now, this episode is all about acceptance. It's all about the hugs. It's all about knowing we're included, that we're holding hands, and I have nobody here with me, so I'm gonna hold my own hand in this scenario. But this episode is a quest for Leslie to feel accepted. Now, throughout this entire plot line for her, she's a person that is often really not accepted by anyone. She's often rejected, the town discourages her, they bring her down, and of course she does have Anne, who loves her unconditionally and who's her best friend. But a lot of times, Leslie just wants to know she belongs, that she's enough for everything. Leslie wants to be validated. She wants to know that she is enough, that she's cared for. So when she takes this like random bag full of bribes, it's super out of character. So Anne asks her, "Why'd you take it? Why'd you do this?" And Leslie says, "Well, it was for a guy. It was Mark." And Leslie tells Anne about their little dalliance a few years ago and how she's hoping that there's still something there. Leslie wants to be included in the guys group, of course, but she really wants to win Mark back in some significant ways too. All Leslie wants is to be accepted. And that takes us beyond the park. Now, Leslie here is trying to do something that we've all tried to get before. Accepted. We've all wanted that feeling of knowing that we belong. And we're not even talking about something crazy usually. Like, I've always just wanted to be accepted by the people around me, and I'll be real, I'm pretty weird. I'm an unusual dude. I've not always gotten that. But sometimes it's even less than that. We want to be accepted by our soccer team, by our schoolmates, by the people we work with, by our family. We're not talking to anything crazy. We just want to know that we're valued and cared for, that we could just be ourselves and know that somebody loves us, know that somebody cares for us. I think it's important. Honestly, I would give just about anything to know that I was accepted by those around me, because oftentimes I look and think, well, they don't get me. They're not really into it. If they knew all that I was, or all that I was thinking, or all that I was about, they would never accept me. And that comes to a moment where we go a little bit deeper, where we go beyond the park. Because one of the big challenges is, how do we know we're accepted, even when we're a little bit different? It comes from this letter that this guy named Peter wrote. And he was writing to this group of people who were coming from many different backgrounds. They were from different countries, different ethnicities, of course, different genders, different ages. They were unique in every way. And he was trying to explain to them how even though they were from many different backgrounds, they were now all part of one big family, and how they had to accept each other. And he wrote, once you were not a people, once you weren't part of anything special, once you were just your own person, but now you are part of the people of God, he finished. Now that's a huge deal, because Peter here is telling us, hey, you have to kind of accept and care for everybody else around you, regardless of their background, regardless of how they look, regardless of how they act, regardless of where they're from or what they're doing or where they've been. You have to accept them because you belong together. Together, you're following after God. Together, you're part of a new family. You're not forgotten. You're not on the side. You need to accept each other because God has accepted you. You see, one of the biggest ways when we talk about acceptance is wondering, will that person really accept us? Will they really care for us? Well, one of the cool things we see is that we can know that we are accepted, that we're part of something bigger, because we have a God who will accept us. Sure, we're not perfect. Sure, we're messed up. Sure, we've got a lot of issues, and I've got a lot of issues. In the words of the great rap artist, I got 99 problems. But the cool part is, I know I have a God who will accept me. Doesn't mean that I don't ever have to change or do things differently. But I know I don't have to clean up. I don't have to pretend to be someone else to know I could be part of a great family. And that takes us beyond the park today. Thank you so much for joining us in Season 1, Episode 4, The Boys Club. We are so excited to keep going, and you could help us by liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll see you next time in Season 1, Episode 5, The Banquet. See you soon.